This ChatPDP trend is everywhere. So there's UX things, so customers use it, but also there's performance implications. So we've got Shawn to talk through the do's and don'ts if you want to try an LLM inside your product template.
AI and LLMs are surfacing everywhere. And so we can talk a little bit about performant ways to add this to your PDP. I love the ChatPDP name, and some best practices and worst practices. So as Evo's page loads, I've taken a recording here. We can see as I scroll through which elements are coming in when. And we can see when the Albi.js comes in. So this is the Albi JavaScript that loads the chatbot. And it loads in what we call render blocking. You see that red text there, JS priority high render blocking. So render blocking means that the browser is going to stop parsing HTML, stop building the DOM, download this script, execute it before continuing. One of the reasons that I would suggest changing that in this case is because as we can see the page coming in here, we get the PDP image loaded and then nothing happens for a while. And then we get, the reviews come in and the 10% off coupon comes in and eventually the chat widget comes in. But none of this is Albi. None of this is the LLM. And if we scroll down, we can see it's actually fair ways below the fold down here. And so for things that are below the fold, we don't want them to be render blocking. We don't want to stop the browser from loading the page to do something that's down in the footer, for instance. There's a few different techniques we can use to load a script. Just a regular script tag is going to block the HTML parsing while it downloads the file and then executes that file. We could use async, which will download the files asynchronously, but it's still going to stop HTML parsing to do script execution. And then finally, defer is a really simple addition, right? You're just adding these keywords onto your script tag. This will at least allow the browser to continue parsing HTML and building that initial DOM before running the script. That'd be a one-liner fix in this case. Better still would be what I like down here, this lazy loaded on interaction. So let's load the above the fold stuff and only download this and execute it if someone needs it. Google's got a recommendation in the web dev resources here about lazy loading third-party resources with facades. We've made this recommendation in the past for some of our clients, and one of the implementations here in particular is Indochino. This isn't about an LLM now, but we're going to talk about Zendesk. So often when you visit a site, you get Zendesk loading this little bubble, just like we saw here. For 90+% of the visitors, they're not going to interact with this chat widget. They may not interact with your LLM. And so for that 90%, they're paying a performance penalty for something that they're never going to use. The way Indochino remediates this is when I click on this little help button, that's when the Zendesk JavaScript is loaded, and that's when we boot the chat interface. And we could do the same thing in the LLM sense. We could load this upon interaction, and there's this Honor the Gift has done a nice job here with a UI that I don't believe is just in time loaded, but you could easily build this element in native HTML in your template. It's just a text box, so nothing yet has happened to interact with a chatbot. But if I started typing something like, will this fit my big head? Then you could be loading it in the background. So as I focus on this input, you get the JavaScript ready. And then by the time I hit enter, now we submit that query. Even this, you could have prepared the response ahead of time. So in a sense, like, let's not block the HTML. Let's not prevent the page from building the main reason we've landed on this page, like, the SKU selection, the beautiful imagery and the pricing and the name, and load it when someone has shown some intent that they're going to interact with it.
Yeah, so what's super interesting is I found a lot in the wild that were doing this, and then I've gone back to check, and they've disappeared. So they're launching, they're dropping. Maybe they lost an A/B test. I don't know.
I think possibly. Now, this is new. We haven't had a holiday season with LLMs on PDPs yet. And so a lot of brands are probably experimenting with whether this helps or hinders conversion rate, whether people actually interact with it, hopefully, what the performance implication is. So I would suggest, and I think this is probably what you're seeing in the wild, is do your experimentation well ahead of the holiday season. See if your users actually want it. We don't want to run the Hail Mary play in the final 10 seconds of the game that we've never practiced before. So, you show up for holiday season with putting your best foot forward, and hopefully we're using this time now to determine what that best experience is for the user.
Totally. So thanks, Shawn and Yottaa, for providing these performance tips. If you want your fastest season ever, Yotta's got software and services to get you in shape for Black Friday. And for more tips, check out Yotta's guide to holiday readiness in an uncertain economy. The link is in the description.